been a great year so far in baseball. This is the first time I'm going to ask Willard a question I thought I'd ask him earlier. You worried about the Giants?
Should be.
Worried.
Yes, worried.
No. Frustrated. Not worried.
Oh, they stink.
I don't even know. Nothing to worry about. I'm not worried. You know.
You're worried they're not going to make the playoffs now.
Oh, boy.
And if they don't make the playoffs,
I'm much
calamity?
I'm much more in the moment than that. Like, the deadline is a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
Let's go. But the problem, see, now
they have enough moves to make?
Well, that's the problem. The problem is twofold. A, what they need, everybody needs. Therefore, the price is going to be exorbitant. Yeah. Secondly, they need to do it now, and nobody wants to do it now. They want to wait till next week because everyone's trying to figure out if they're a contender or not. And the Giants they need to shake up the lineup now. If I got to watch another middle infielder go up there with like zero chance of doing anything but hitting a ground ball to second base, it's going to drive us all nuts.
They love Brett Wisely, though.
No, I don't know. I don't think they do. Yeah, I don't think they do. I don't think they love any of their options up the middle. Yeah, exactly.
They don't now. I think they did at the beginning.
They need Taro Estrada to get healthy.
On Saturday,
they missed the hell out of him.
On Saturday, there's 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters.
Oh, God.
4 rookies.
Oh, dude.
Right.
Mato, Sable, Wisely, and Schmidt.
Well, I don't mind rookies, but like we were talking about Schmidt
more like lookies
last week. This guy's got like 3 hits in like 5 weeks or so. I mean, it's
the only one that's withstood the test of time is Patrick Bailey. Like he looks like a bona fide franchise type player in the making.
Matos is fine. It's fine. And Sable is fine. Like, there's the role that they're playing and the way they're playing it right now, it's okay. It's not as exciting as you wanted it to be. Schmidt has got to go back down. And then the other issue is...
And go down hard.
Everybody's like, everyone wants a starter. There aren't that many available. And I'm like, the Giants need 2. I don't know if they can get 1, and they need 2. This whole Stripling, Manaea, DeSclafani, Wood thing...
Stripling looked good today.
He's okay.
He looked good. Like, in comparison to...
He did.
He looked good.
What did he throw? 6
got
innings?
outs?
Gave up 10 hits.
Yeah. But only, 3 runs?
He's okay. That's decidedly...
That's a quality start. Kept it in the park.
That's mid.
Exactly.
That's mid.
It's not mid for this rotation. Because you've got one guy who's really solid, one guy who's, mostly good, and then a bunch of, garbage.
Yeah, you're comparing him to Anthony DeSclafani, and I don't want to do that. Here's the thing right now. If the Giants even ended up in a playoff series where you needed a 4th starter...
Oh, God.
If that even happened, I don't even hate the Rays have done this. Use Alexander as an opener in a game 4. Fine. But who's starting game 3? Those 4 other names I gave you are all no's. No. Manaea, Stripling, Wood, DeSclafani, the answer is no. It's a hard no. Someone else needs to start that game. And they need him now to even see if they could get to that game.
So you got Webb and Cobb and a bunch of nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to Spawn and Sane and Pray for Rain.
Exactly.
You got Webb, Cobb, and a bunch of doorknobs. Yeah, their third best starter has been Brebbia or Walker. I mean, it's been the opener.
Look,
they've got an opener. They've done well.
Right.
Which is no way to live, obviously, over the course of a season.
No,
but
and there's no excuses. Like, that's the other thing. They can't get a hit, and they just did this against some of the worst teams in baseball. They're obviously exhausted. They're going to how many cities in 12 days or whatever.
It all clearly hit them over the weekend.
Right,
you could tell in Washington.
But they don't get any rest, other than that the worst team in baseball is coming in for a couple of nights. So if they win the next 2, everyone will feel a little bit better. But yeah, man, what ugly week.
And they have officially fallen, I guess, into a tie now for the last spot.
Virtual tie. Technically
they're out.
Technically
they're out. But
right.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
pending
Mark,
the outcome of later action. Yeah.
How? What's the difference between the Giants making the playoffs and not making the playoffs? Let's say they don't make the playoffs this year, Mark.
Well, I mean, yeah, in terms of what?
Just your overall approach to the Giants. If they make the playoffs they're kind of like where the Niners were with Shanahan.
I'll put it this
if they
way.
make the playoffs this year, then all of a sudden you can say, they're pretty. If they don't make the playoffs, you can say, well, they only made the playoffs once in 5 years. since these new guys have come in.
But that's all. Like I try to avoid those labels that we like. Like that's the stuff that we've done to Shanahan for years that I think is just kind of silly. It's like, why are we doing that? There's nobody who's watching this that doesn't know that Kyle Shanahan is a good coach, the right coach for this. All of those things. If you don't think that, I'm really not sure exactly how to help. It's not.
Well, but would you feel that way about the Giants situation, though? Shanahan's unique, and
but I don't even know necessarily if you would firmly say that, even if they do sneak into the playoffs.
Okay.
Like, there's a bigger. The Giants' question that needs to be answered is: can you be relevant? Can you be exciting? Can you be consistent? Can you have players that others fear when they come to the plate? And for too long, the answer's been no. Right?
And now they've lost their depth because they've had a number of injuries.
Yeah.
And as we saw last year, it looks a lot worse when you don't have that depth, which is pretty much how they're built. They're built to be able to withstand a certain amount. I guess what I come back to as far as them is if they don't make it, well, they almost have to make it to be able to go back and revisionist history through all the if they make it, they can say, well, now we know who Patrick Bailey is and the young guys helped, even though it's less and less for the other young guys. The plan worked. If they don't make it, other than Patrick Bailey, what do they have to show for this year?
Well, but I mean,
if they don't make it.
Yeah, but see, again, that's where it's like the plan for me doesn't all rest on did they make it right? Did they win 87 and get in, or did they win 86 and not get in? Like, that seems like we would be boiling it down to something that's pretty minuscule.
So if they get in, I'm
not like, okay, now everything's okay.
Okay.
And if they don't get in, that does not mean I'm like, oh my gosh, utter disaster.
But for you, it's more about the star player component to it? Is it because
it's the whole picture, man? Like it's right. Can you be good every year? Can you compete every year? Can you be interesting? Can you have good players? Can what you're trying to build, can it be a mix of homegrown talent and free agents? All those things that have been said all along. Like, yeah, that's what, like, when you say I want them to make the playoffs every year. They're the Giants. I don't ever go into a year like, well, wait till next year.
Well, especially with 6 teams making it. And like to me, the way I look at it is.
Or whatever, 6, yeah.
But the way I'm looking at it is, all right, they're not the Braves. They're not the Dodgers, even though it's taken the Dodgers a while to get going. I think we're seeing that.
They're right there with everybody else.
I think they're probably not Philly. I think Philly's probably better than them. They haven't been to this point, but I think Philly is. Somebody's going to win the Central. Fine. But if you can't be the 5th or the 6th, you're telling me, if they don't make it, that means you're probably worse than Arizona, Miami, Cincinnati, maybe
two
all
of those
three.
Yeah,
at least 2. Yeah, but. If you
remove the division winners, it's 5 teams right now for 3 spots.
Yeah. And San Diego is a 6th if they get
hot. And if you don't make it, the teams that will have beaten you out should kind of infuriate you, I think, if you're a Giants
or Reds or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But here's
in a year where the Padres stink.
And the Mets.
Well,
like the teams that were supposed to.
Yep.
Teams that were supposed to do it aren't doing it.
But here's what I'm saying.
So
and
they've been
I
helped
get it.
by that and still, that's kind of what I'm getting at. If they're helped by that and still can't get in.
Well, here's all I'm saying, and I know the comparison's not perfect. So Shanahan comes in 2 years when he starts, nothing. Then they go to the Super Bowl, they lose. Then they miss the playoffs at 6-10. Then in 2021, they start out 2-4.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, and then 3-5, you say, man, if they don't make the playoffs this year, that's once in 5 years. I'm not saying that Shanahan gets fired, but the narrative now.
No, but he would have been on the hot seat last year.
That's what I think. That's all I'm saying. And now they turned it around, and now it's a fait accompli 1.5 years later because they've been to the NFC Championship games twice.
They could have lost the Week 18 game to the Rams 2 years ago, and he would have been on the hot seat going into last year. And if they go 13-4 last year, he's fine now.
Okay.
To me. But
my question is so that didn't come to fruition.
But it was that close to happening.
If the Giants don't make I guess what I'll say is if the Giants don't make the playoffs, would Kapler be on the hot seat?
I don't think so.
I'm not saying he should or he shouldn't.
We're in a time where I would argue.
But they do have to make a decision on him because he's going to have 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
He's not somebody that. Is somebody you'd want to give an extension to? That's the thing. You make the playoffs, you can say, hey, made the playoffs 2 out of 3.
The odd thing about Kapler.
We'll give him
is
He didn't do much.
there are a lot of he's obviously this polarizing figure, but I always put it up against your opinion of Kapler has to also go up against your opinion of the team. Most people I hear go, well, you don't have very many talented players. Well, if you don't have very many talented players, then Kapler's a freaking god. Because how do they do this? They've had 1,500 in the last 3 years. Buck 07, 1,500 year, and now what they're doing this year. And what I hear on the streets is they're doing all of it without any good players. Well, then you got to love Kapler. So you almost say whatever your opinion of Farhan is, you have to kind of bounce that up against your opinion of Kapler. I don't think you can have the same opinion about the two because they have two very different jobs.
No, I agree. But what I think is if you look at the Kapler tenure and there's not, and you don't get a star in here, I think most people will say, the Giants always do more with less. You know what I mean?
Which is a compliment to Kapler, right?
It is,
Or
but I mean,
Farhan,
if you wind up as an 86 and 76 team that doesn't win playoff series, then it's not the same compliment as it was with Bruce Bochy, as we're watching throwback Giants videos in the room here, because he did more with less, but they won the World Series.
Well, and then got it to the point where we decided it actually wasn't less.
Right, because they won.
Right.
Well,
But
that's the
if you
thing.
look at that team,
That goes back
how
to the
That's
revisionist
baseball.
history.
How many
That's
Hall of
baseball.
Famers are you going to have on those teams? The answer is one.
One.
And it's Buster Posey.
Yeah. But
and that's it.
Tim was a Hall of Fame talent. It just didn't last.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Fidrich,
And
same thing.
and Bumgarner, that for those 5 years.
Yeah.
That was elite.
Yeah.
It was elite.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
Until he left.
And to your point about this team and Gabe Kapler and what he's done, if you look at this roster right now, who's the best player on the roster? If it's Logan Webb, well, Logan Webb isn't even as good as Matt Cain was, in my opinion,
No.
in terms of what he's projecting to be. You have no Hall of Famers on this team, and yet they're a team that is in the playoff mix, and they won 107 2 years ago with largely an equally untalented team.
No Hall of Fame. You barely have any
All-Stars.
Yeah, 2 All-Stars.
Right. One of them was a fill-in.
Sure.
And the other one shows up for 3 outs if you're winning.
Right. Has he pitched in like a week?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
Remember he pitched twice in one
the
day.
doubleheader.
And they haven't
Yeah,
needed him
he
since.
2 saves in a
They're
day.
all
He's never
worried. They're
since,
like,
right?
oh, that was a lot. Don't worry. He's got a week off coming.
Yeah, last time
No
he
worries.
pitched, I had a 7-point. He gave me a 7-point game.
In fantasy.
He's on my fantasy.
Yeah.
He pitched
Oh,
2 games.
Yeah.
gave you.
Yes, he did.
Glad,
You're
glad
listening.
he's working for you.
He said he wants to get some work even when they're not winning, just to keep his arm. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM, and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Station. Willard and Dibs in the house.
My
Yeah.
favorite part about the Matt Stein Mets radio experience is that his baseball takes, and he knows baseball, but he really, really, really knows baseball on about 25 guys. Guys on his fantasy team.
It's not true.
No, it's true
50.
in
Well,
terms
if
of like,
you-
there's like
50.
a random guy
The
like
25
what-
on my team
you know
and the
what's wild?
25 on the Giants.
You know what's wild about baseball, though, is
My fault.
if you don't play fantasy, and I don't,
Yeah.
it will stun you how few players you could name. Because my kids are so into it
Yeah.
that little guy's got this game now where he'll play. And it's almost like guess the player. All right, is it American League, National League? What division? What position? And he'll get to a team, and I'll just be like, you have to stop the game. I don't know any Rays.
He's probably good at Immaculate Grid.
Like if they are, then they love to play it. That's what started this whole thing. But he'll get to the Rays and I'll be like a Rosarena. And if it's not that, we can move on. I don't know. I don't know any Orioles, right? He got to the Angels the other day and it stunned me. I was like, Ohtani, Trout, I'm out. I don't. He goes,
rhymes.
Rendon.
Yeah, it works.
Drury.
He's hurt.
Drury,
that
second
was, they go,
baseman.
you don't know Drury? I go, oh, that's
Yeah,
right,
see?
Drury.
Well,
But
I'm at second base.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. I mean, name, how many Rockies could you name?
Chris Bryant.
Crone.
Okay.
CJ
No, but
Crone.
it's stunning.
CJ Crone.
It's stunning how few teams you could name 5 players
Yeah.
from.
McMahon.
I don't even know. Could you name 5 Yankees?
Man, I'd be hard pressed.
He's looking at you, Dibs, not me.
Give it a
No,
try.
he's always looking at me
Give it a
because,
try. Well, he's my partner.
after you beleaguered him with all these Giants takes and JD had him on the ropes, so now he's going to turn
On the
on me.
ropes.
You're going to turn on me.
Rodon.
Yeah, exactly.
Judge.
You still don't.
Sure.
Jermaine.
You
Rodon
still
with his-
don't pronounce Rodon correctly.
I know. It's one of those.
You got to think.
Because I'm thinking of the thinker.
Yeah.
I think I'm an artist at
And
first.
by the way, and you're only getting him because he was here last year. He's pitched what 3
still
times?
counts.
0-3
Yeah,
with
he's
a
always-
7 something.
Exactly.
He's
His wife
struggling.
is furious all over
Again,
Twitter
That's
every day.
Rodon.
Another one
or
in the-
Rodin.
Yes.
Rodin, the thinker. Le
Farhan's greatest
Penseur.
skill, knowing who not to sign.
Yeah, like
Go-
Kevin Gosman.
Yeah, Gosman's
Wow.
name. Gosman's
Yeah,
name is getting
It's not
everybody.
perfect, but he's
No.
got a lot more of those
No.
wins than he has losses.
Well, but
Yeah.
look, I mean, 5
And Mark
years.
will give you Correa's batting
Bumgarner.
average every single day when he wants to defend
Actually,
Farhan.
don't know it right now.
It's about 220 something.
Is it still?
Yeah.
Poor guy
Yeah.
still hasn't gotten out of that slump.
Who's
huh?
this?
When Mark wants to defend Farhan, he'll say
Carlos
Carlos Correa,
Correa.
223. And it's like, damn. he's
Who's
right,
my,
223.
He's up to 232.
Oh, my fault.
With 12 home runs.
Farhan, you got burned.
Oh, and an OPS of 717. Yeah, he's
That's
still
getting
not
better,
good.
yeah.
It's still not very good.
Who's
Slow
my
start.
shortstop for the Yankees that I liked? The rookie.
Volpe?
Volpe. How's he doing this year?
Volpe.
Volpe. He's not a soccer
Not great.
transfer.
What did I say?
That's
he was a deep,
You said
late,
Volpe.
yeah.
Volpe.
It's Volpe.
late inning defensive replacement. One of the games I watched over the weekend. So
Anyway,
Well, he counts.
It speaks to a bigger issue about Major League Baseball in
Totally.
terms of like social media and recognizability. We just like even general audience members don't know as many players as we did when we were kids.
and a lot of that is to me it's the analytics and it's making a lot of these players into being a dime a dozen, whereas
Totally.
it
Yeah.
becomes like nobody cares. There's guys that are 225 with 10 home runs and 20 driven in, or like it doesn't matter who they are. Like
Joe,
you used to know those guys' names.
Joe watch the All-Star game? Like, be honest. When they're doing those opening intros, how many times were you like, who?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's true.
Who's that?
Fantasy
and you just
baseball.
flush through the back end of your roster
Yeah.
now, so all these guys are interchangeable. They're just numbers on a spreadsheet to the front offices.
I play fantasy baseball to keep in touch more with, to keep in touch with what's going on in the
Keep in touch
regular
with
league.
the kids, huh?
No, to know who's in first place
Yeah.
in this division and what teams lost 6 in a row and what teams.
The Giants.
The Giants. That's
know,
the team that's
yeah,
lost
yeah.
6 in a row.
They lost today 5-1 to
Nobody-
Detroit.
Yeah. How many people even knew they were playing?
They got swept in a 3-game series back-to-back days.
Right?
That's actually a
Oh, did
great
they lose the
point.
first two to
They did.
Detroit?
Yes, they did. That was back
in
when
April.
Yeah, that was
It was
when
back-
they
it was
really
back-
stunk.
The
It-
weekend of Game 1, it was the weekend of the Warriors-Kings series.
It was that 7 and
The weekend that
13
started.
start or whatever
Right.
they were. Yeah, they
It was
were
funny. They came
awful.
back to Detroit, and they wound up kind of as bad as they were then.
Good Lord. Yeah,
all
yeah,
came
they
full
can't.
circle.
Great point, JD.
So weigh in on this. Dibs throws out this a Twitter poll, which I was interested in, and then became even more interested in when I saw the way people responded. So the 4 options were, and the question being, what should the Giants do at the deadline? You got buy, you got sell, you got buy and sell, and you got do nothing. Oddly, none of the 4 options have achieved 50%, which means there's no clear majority on any answer.
About 500 votes.
Yeah. How would you answer?
Bye.
Steiny? Look at that pause.
I don't think they
That's
have
a
anything
Jim
to sell.
Rohn
I don't think
pause
they have
right there.
anybody to sell.
That's a
So,
great
like
pause.
that guy.
Listen
You
to
know
one of
what?
my pauses.
I have to say bye, too, because it's about making the playoffs.
Right.
yeah.
And you can't win the World Series unless you
Well,
first make the playoffs.
You make the
So
playoffs.
just make the playoffs.
If you make the playoffs simple,
Thank you.
it was a successful season.
I
The
agree.
Giants,
Well,
Farhan could stand up, and whether he needs to or not,
Yeah.
we can debate. But Farhan could stand up, Kapler if he wanted to, and say, hey, we made the playoffs, successful season. Whether it was Conforto was this, Estrada was that, Bailey was this, Schmidt was that. Like, you make the playoffs, it's successful season.
Well, and we're all prisoners of the moment. When we left here on Friday, this is not even a question.
Still need a star.
Everybody would have been like, bye. My gosh, you have the second best record in baseball since May 1st and all the stuff that we were all saying.
I posted it yesterday after they got swept.
Yeah, exactly. So then they've lost 6 games in a row to some of the worst teams in baseball, and so you're in the doldrums for the moment and all that. But that is the number one answer on the poll at about 48%.
Bye.
But that means 52% said something else. Any of the other 3 answers, which is fascinating to me. Some sort of combination of a defeatist negative in the moment attitude or an awareness of the difficulty of buying. I mean, like, I would have thought people were a little bit more down in this moment on the farm system than they were 6 weeks ago because the luster of Schmidt and Matos is worn off a bit.
But I think the one thing with Giants fans is when you say sell or even buy and sell, I think the first names that come up are Kyle Harrison and they're young Matos.
That's buying.
Yeah,
that's buying. You give prospects, that's buying.
Right.
Selling is taking Jock Peterson and giving him away for a prospect.
Right.
In other words,
I was looking at it more like you get a finished product in here for young guys.
Are you buying? Are you buying?
Yeah.
Are you adding at the deadline?
Are you adding to your major league roster from your
what I'm doing is
roster?
actually buying and selling.
That's what I'm doing
Okay.
too. Like, take DeSclafani, who you don't want anyway.
But that's not really a sell.
I
That's
know it's a sell.
Who
It's a
wants
sell
him?
for whatever you can get. Bag of balls or
I'll tell you
future
how-
considerations. That's a sell.
There's only one way he
Because
ends
his
up.
contract is massive.
It's not massive.
For Farhan, it's the biggest deal since La Stella.
No, it's not. Haniger's their biggest deal. But here's how DeSclafani
Trying
could
to
end
push
up.
the buttons
Well,
early.
so Verlander's name comes up over the weekend, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
why not? If
Well-
all it is money.
He's not
Well,
waiving his no trade to come here.
Okay.
That's why not.
yeah, he would. He won't play in the playoffs. Got a better
Yeah.
shot here than there.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, he had a better shot with a team that's actually going to be a playoff team, but
That's not the one that he's on right now. So
right. But this team is, they're borderline playoff team right now as we sit.
Yeah. So if you're Verlander and it's another 43 mil on the books next year, and I think another potential 35 after that, and I think he's already had his 40th birthday. If not, he's 39.
Oh yeah, he has.
He already
He's
has,
82,
right?
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you say to the Mets, if you're going to acquire Verlander, hey, Mets, you're going to need to pay for some of that. We're not going to pay the whole freight. And if they say no, you are paying the whole freight, then you say, okay, then you got to take.
We're going to give you nothing, or you're going to take somebody back.
Or you got to take some junk back. That's how DeSclafani or Manaya could end up in a deal. I could see that. But this is complex for Farhan. I want him to be aggressive, but this is really hard. It's really hard because everyone wants a starter, which means the price is going to be at a premium. I want Farhan to be aggressive without decimating the farm system and without taking on so much money that they even hesitate with Ohtani in the offseason. That's the assignment, and that's hard.
And good luck. Yeah.
Good luck.
That's a
Good
tough
luck.
assignment.
Pat on the back and
Exactly.
see you next week.
They need something. I mean, I think that's
no
the one that they
doubt.
need an infusion. Like, we can debate buy or sell and all that, but they need, like, they've lost 6 in a row. I think Farhan's got to be thinking, damn it, almost made it to the point where I didn't have to be a little more desperate than I want to be. Well, he's at that point now. I still maintain he's coming back next year, all that. But I still maintain he's got to get this team into the playoffs. He's got some splaining to do given everything that happened in the offseason, the guys that came, the guys that they passed on. Sure, he can revise that and say Correa ain't this, and that's fine. They got to make the playoffs.
I would
Gotta
argue.
make the playoffs.
I would argue.
He's got to push forward.
We are at the three teams we talk about. We are at a moment of hot seat free discussion. I think everybody is about as secure as they want to be. Doesn't mean that it couldn't get there, but the discussion is totally on hold for this year.
Oh, I disagree.
Who's getting fired at the end of this year?
Well, fired's a different. You said hot seat.
I said hot seat free.
Right, now they are. But
If you're on the hot
but
seat
here's the
now,
thing.
then
Was it
you
ever-
could get fired at the
Oh,
end
I
of the
thought you
year.
meant-
Steve Kerr is on the George Gervin ice
Right.
zone.
Steve
Right.
Kerr.
As is
That's right.
Dunleavy Jr.
If the Giants
So's Kyle.
falter,
So's
if the
Kyle.
Giants falter in the second half,
Yes.
I think Kapler's on the hot seat.
Okay, that puts him on the hot seat,
Yeah.
but not at the
Yeah.
end of this year.
No, yes. If they don't make the playoffs,
You think
Well,
there
here's
could
the
be a
thing.
change at the end of the year?
No. That's
That's
different.
what I'm
If he goes
saying.
on
I'm
the
saying
hot
he
seat.
could be on the hot seat all next year too.
That's fine.
I'm just-
we are.
And,
I'm talking
and
about
obviously
right
will
now.
not get an extension. He has,
Yeah.
which
right
can
now,
make it weird.
in this moment, I think everybody who's running teams is super secure.
But
Farhan-
Kapler could obviously fall apart the fastest because I think
Farhan's
this
got
year.
one more year.
You don't think?
I
No, seriously. If
actually don't even know off the top of my
yeah.
head. But they've already.
He's coming back.
Yep.
But is it?
Yep.
But does he have one more year?
I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
They
So
don't
if Kapler's-
publicize that very much.
If Kapler's Gervin on the ice chair,
Yeah.
but what are there 90 games left? Something, whatever.
Whatever
About
it is.
60
Let's
left.
say they
Yeah,
fade.
they've
Let's
already-
say
they've
they
already
go
played over 100
25 and 35.
And they missed the
They
playoffs.
missed the playoffs.
And they wind up like 78 and
Kapler's-
84.
I think there's concern.
Oh, no, then going into next year is uncomfy.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
they miss the playoffs. They don't get Ohtani.
Yeah.
You come back with the same kind
Right.
of feel.
And he'd be in the last year of his deal.
We got a cool righty-lefty matchup in right field you're going to love. If that happens next year, yeah, then it's a little uncomfortable.
Right.
But
No,
as we sit here right now, Lynch, Shanahan, Farhan, Kapler, Kerr, Dunleavy. I don't feel a whole lot of heat anywhere.
Not yet. But
Not yet.
Kapler's the closest to heat. If for no other reason than his season is immediate right
Is
now.
Kapler versus Farhan? Who's closer to heat?
I think that they're right. They're in lockstep.
Yeah.
I don't
And-
think that you replace one without replacing the other, in my opinion. They
that's
feel
interesting.
connected to me.
I think you can make a case you
Yes.
shouldn't. I also think Farhan's smart enough to know that he does probably like a GM's always got that. Well, I can change the manager card to play. Most of the time.
But that's
Like,
I mean,
so I think
he
that
already
would
did
put
that when he brought in Kapler for Bochy. That to
I
me
mean,
was his one.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I don't think
counts
the
as
Giants
his
are
one.
looking at it that way.
I don't think
I'm
that
with
counts as
JD
his
on
one.
terms of again. We can
Even if
all
it was
choose
just because
how,
Bochy took the high
Right.
road.
We can choose how we look at it. I don't think the Giants are looking at it. I don't
No.
think the Giants feel like those guys are on the block.
And let's say Farhan's safe no matter what happens. Okay, like, it sounds like we all agree that at least for next year. But it goes completely awry. And so somebody's got to pay. Like Farhan
Right.
may not want to do it. I don't think he wants to do it because I think he believes that Kapler delivers the message and runs the show the way they want it run without doing
Yeah.
much, but yapping to the media, whatever. Anyway, I don't think he hasn't been a disaster, Kapler, but he hadn't really done much either. So he's kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
I wonder if something splashy doesn't happen next week because whether they make the playoffs this year or not, the Giants do not want to go into the offseason in a Shohei or bust, right? Like from
So
a
they're
name
getting the
value
guy for more than 1 year.
for name
more than half a
value's
year.
sake, but for name value's sake. Do you know what I mean? If Arenado is on your team, right? Like, and I'm not saying that replaces Shohei, but if they go all in on Shohei, they don't get him. He signs with the Dodgers, and the Giants come back again with their fingernail lineup. That's where I feel like things are going to get real uncomfortable because that's going to affect box office big time.
Yeah.
And that's when the people making the decisions start making decisions.
And I
you don't
wonder
like.
about the box office this week as they come home off of this 6-game losing streak. And, this is a big stretch for them heading into the All-Star break. I'm sorry, the trade deadline. I wonder how the fans respond after the 7-game win streak and then the 6-game losing skid.
Well, this 6 games is going to be energetic because the next 2 nights are sell the team shirts, followed by half the building being filled with Boston fans.
Yep.
So you don't need to be too worried about sounds and sights this week. And then it's the deadline. And then, then you see where you're at. And you see where you're at. So...
All right, gents. Well, I want you to have a great show, and
Well,
the crew will be back tomorrow. JD was money, as always, and
I want you to have a wonderful round of golf tomorrow. I guess we'll see you before you play. The next time you see us, we will have carded scores.
yeah.
So it's going to be exciting, Steiny.
Bye-bye.